And we're live. Okay. Hi, friends, and welcome to Framecrafter's first community update. This is something that I'm planning on doing about like every 2 weeks to every month or whatever to just kind of share what's going on with this project, the community that we're building of people that are interested in making tools for creators in the browser. And yeah, I'm excited that this is the first one. I'm excited that like we're not streaming to literally no one. So that's really great and is a testament to how many fun people are interested in this space. Um, uh, I will say, hang on, I have to make a. You can come back to presentation if you'd like to chat. So how I'm running this right now, I'll show you a little behind the scenes. Um, so how I'm thinking about these is that we will run kind of chat and interaction out of our Discord, which you can get a link to in the chat of this stream right now. And I think I put it in the video description. If I haven't while we're streaming, I will have done that when this thing goes live. But yeah, so I'll run my chat out of the presentation channel so that we can bring people in kind of like Twitter spaces or whatever if we want to have discussions about something going on in the community. And then we can run chat out of one of these channels. That's the idea. So that we can kind of have some interaction. Okay, cool. But I'm going to start this off by just like introducing myself and the project a little for the uninitiated. Framecrafter is an open source video editor in the browser that we are trying to build out. Our goal is to kind of have an editing system similar to how like YouTube Shorts or TikTok or whatever works, but for a full NLE in the browser. And the reason we're doing this is because there's been a lot of innovation in the space of content creation, especially for short form. And creators have gotten to have tools through things, yeah, like Snapchat, YouTube Shorts, or whatever that do like live effects, live green screen keying, like all these things that are like really cool and kind of process intensive, but like really interesting and helpful for creators. But traditional NLEs like Adobe Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut, they have been kind of slow to roll on providing those more innovative features. And so our goal is to basically show that with some new technologies like the Web Codecs API that's now built into the latest version of Chrome, we can provide creators with some of those tools within their normal kind of traditional look and feel of an NLE that you don't have to do through like a mobile app. Yeah, so that's the idea. How this project came to be is that I was at a conference. I was at RemixConf with a couple of friends and Christopher Shadow, who you might know as one of the co-creators of React Native and Prettier, and Excalidraw, gave a talk on building a video editor in the browser because he, in his time in COVID, got really into streaming Minecraft and had this idea of like, what if I became a Minecraft YouTuber, and quickly began to realize how complicated the tools are for content production and thought the fun, naive thought that we as engineers always think is like, oh, I could make something better than this. And using kind of these new APIs from Chrome that allow you to do hardware acceleration for video encoding and decoding in the browser, took a stab at it. Ran into some issues, but like definitely created a fun proof of concept and basically did an open call out at the end of his talk to say like, if anyone's interested in working on this, like, let me know. This is where I will introduce myself. So I'm Drew. I'm a software engineer based out of the Central Virginia area on the East Coast of the United States. So basically right in the middle of the East Coast. I am a software engineer. I went to school for computer science, but my goal was really to be a Pixar animator. So I was studying CS and graphics stuff with that goal in mind. I worked as a motion graphics artist and content producer for a couple of companies, and also ran my own YouTube channel, making educational explainers that you can still see on my profile if you want to go watch them. But that's like where I learned how hard it is to be a creator. And similarly, about 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now, had an idea to create project management software for YouTube creators. So I had a lot of friends who were also creators that were experiencing a lot of pain points in terms of content planning and strategy. And again, I had the naive thought of I could build something better. And then me and one of my best friends, Keith, started a company that we ran for 4 years, building out that product, and just like working with creators. And it was a ton of fun, but we couldn't make the business part of it work. And so we eventually ran out of money and died. But along that process of trying to figure out like what we were, what the product was, and what other things that we wanted maybe to provide to creators if we were going to pivot or whatever, one of them was a like in-browser video editor. And so I already kind of had a passion for this space. And so I went to Christopher after his talk and was like, hey, like I have also thought about this. What were you doing to solve these problems? Because we had kind of explored like how difficult this area would be. And like I wanted to know a lot more about the web codec stuff and like how that was shaping up and whether it was like gonna be a really stable thing. And I talked to him about like what the user experience would be like and what he was thinking in terms of like maybe a plugin system or something like that. And we just really meshed. We talked for like 5 hours. By the end of it, he convinced me that I should start this project. So that's why I'm here. I will say though, I am like not at all an expert in graphics, image manipulation, even like how video encoding works. I am like completely self-taught and am still on a learning journey about all this stuff. And like, so that's part of the reason why as I've started this project, spent, I'd say, more time working on community building like this instead of just like straight coding, because I think that what I've learned through Lumastic, or which is the company that Keith and I started, and just other projects along the way, is that like the people are really what get you the farthest. Not so much like any individual skill or anything like that. It's the ability to ask for help. And so, yeah, that's why we're doing these community updates. That's why Framecrafter I think of as more of a community around a project instead of the project itself. And so I'm really excited that we have two, I'd say, like community members I'm really excited about, including Aman and Yaweasel. And yeah, I'm excited to like get to know you guys more and to be able to kind of build this community out together. So with that all said, I want to like dive into what has actually been accomplished so far, and kind of like in terms of the actual progress being made on the project, like where we're at. Aman, anybody else watching, if you want to join the Discord, throw questions in the general channel or whatever, as I go through this, or you want to talk about things that I am not, don't have on my notes, like let me know. But I'm gonna switch views again here. Super cool. And I'm gonna go actually just straight to, oh, this is Inception. I'm going to go straight to the actual repo, because this is something that I like spent a fair amount of time trying to like figure out best practices of, because it's also, I've never run an open source project before. So this is also something that I'm learning along the way. And if there are people smarter than me who have tips or ideas or wanted to take some of this stuff on, please. Yeah, so I wrote down the motivation and like the technical background in greater detail. I'm not going to read this verbatim for you because I think it's like beneficial to kind of go through it and kind of have the full story. But this is the thing that I kind of want to focus on, is the roadmap and scope. So like when you hear building a nonlinear editor, that's a huge project. Like if you look at something like Premiere, Resolve, Final Cut, like these programs do so much. And so it can feel kind of like deceptive to say that you'll just like build a video editor, because building a video editor, like any project, is actually building massive amounts of capabilities and features. And so we really wanted to scope down and show like kind of a proof of concept of what an NLE in the browser could look like powered by web codecs. And we came up with these kind of 4 things. being able to import media, so import a clip into some sort of media explorer or library from your computer, play back that media on a timeline. So being able, like, you think click and drag from the media library into the timeline, or if it's just a button or whatever, just like being able to put it on the timeline and then press play and pause, and for that playback to be smooth, both in terms of video and audio syncing, which is something that I've learned is actually going to be kind of complicated. We want to be able to trim clips. So trimming is different than cutting. Trimming is just being able to take the beginning and make the beginning start later in the clip's length, or take the clip at the end and be able to move the end closer to the beginning, so leaving out stuff at the back. So that's trimming. And then exporting that timeline. So being able to like take the clip or multiple clips, shorten or lengthen them, and then export that in a like MOV or MP4 or whatever format. So that's it. That's the roadmap and scope for, we're targeting like the end of 2023. So like the end of December, beginning of January. I think that's totally doable, and we can definitely make that happen, especially if we work like together really well and collaborate on some of this stuff. And so that's kind of where we're headed and where we're going. I want to talk a little bit then about like where the actual code is, or like how the repo is structured. So I've structured this as a mono repo, which is why we're using something like PNPM, and why you see like different directories for packages and apps and all that stuff. The only actual application logic, or all the application logic, is located in this demo folder, which is basically where I think we keep this as kind of like a playground almost, as we figure out and work through some of these more complicated issues. And then eventually we can take some of these like functions and features and move them into their own kind of like packages, so that we can potentially not only have Framecrafter be a deliverable back to the video, like online video community, but we can also have if we happen to create our own like abstractions for encoding and decoding, or like demuxing or syncing audio and video, like all that stuff could be really valuable if someone else wanted to re-implement some of the features that come with an NLE, but don't want to have the same scope of our project. And so that's why this is structured the way it is. But if you're going to be starting development, the demo folder is really all where you need to be. The README explains everything about how to get set up. So yeah, like, the README of the demo folder. So you can go there to figure that out. Yeah, and then there's this contribution thing of like that I'm eventually going to beef up to be like, we're really looking for contributors. But in general, we're just pointing them at the Discord. Cool. I wanted to like note some of the prior art that like this project is standing on top of. Like we're in a great time that like WebCodex has come out and is very early, and there are a lot of challenges and problems with using very early APIs, but there are some people that we can kind of like bank the ideas off of. One of those is definitely, where is it? Yeah, Clipchamp. And like they do a bunch of great stuff and have like a pretty good open source mindset. Not their whole product isn't open source, but like they've definitely plugged some stuff. Lossless Cut is definitely one that like we can learn a lot from. This is a project that is basically a super simple like FFmpeg backed. Yeah, it's just a GUI, but it allows you to do basically everything that we're talking about in terms of our initial scope, like importing media, playing that back, trimming, all that stuff. And so I think there's a lot we can learn from just kind of the structure and ideas of how these problems are solved with Lossless Cut. Yeah, so huge shout out to who makes this? MiFi, who's this? Yeah, Mikhail Finstad. Yeah, thank you so much for like being an open source contributor and like putting this out for everybody to kind of see. Like this is an awesome project that we can really learn a lot from. Cool. But if I go, oh man, restore back. Yeah, cool. Cool. So that's like the ideas of the README. I'm going to check the Discord to make sure. Cool. We are all still good. Great. Okay. So now I want to talk a little bit about like some of the challenges and things we've had to solve. And for that, I'm going to jump into some code. So one of the first things that I'm looking to do, if we go into this lib folder, is like, actually, I'm going to switch to here. Okay. One of the first things that I'm trying to work on is actually not so much the import idea and the media playback player, but and the media library, but the actual playback engine. So being able to take a sequence, like an idea of a set of clips, and then being able to actually play those individual frames in a like in the correct frame rate and get audio syncing to work. That's not shown up here. I'm just talking about video rendering in this graphic, but that's the concept. So basically, for those uninitiated about how playback works in a lot of, in just like video in general, basically there's a sequence, which is a set of clips, which are video files. Those files are then demuxed, which demuxing is basically over here, converting a single stream into multiple tracks. So like your video file, your MP4 file, is encoded in a way that there's like an audio track, video track. There could be multiple of all of these. And basically the container format is the thing that allows you to put all those things together and then be able to play those back in something like QuickTime or whatever. Like they just know how to undo those and then play them back for you. And so demuxing is where we abstract the tracks. And so we need to demux the video to be able to get the individual video track, which is shown here. And then from that video track, we can use like the actual, this is where the web codecs API can come in to get an encoded video chunk, which is like a sequence of bytes of data that represents a piece of the video. We can decode that to actually get a video frame, and then ignore this frame cache thing. This is a future thing that we'll need, but basically with that frame, then we can put it into like a sequence buffer. And then when we want to like actually view the video, we'll like kind of render those video frames onto like an HTML canvas that represents our monitor, playback monitor. And we'll continue to paint those frames on given a frames per second. So a time interval will like move to the next frame. And all this kind of needs to happen in a very efficient way where we're not like necessarily decoding and caching all these frames all at once and then trying to play them all back. It's more ideal if like for memory usage and stuff, if as we're playing back, we're kind of like almost just in time playing or decoding and making these video frames as we go, or like the next 5 frames or something like that, kind of how like YouTube buffering works. That's the idea. And so this has like actually been a lot harder to implement than I would have expected. You all might have seen the proof of concept that Christopher retweeted on Twitter. That was like kind of my fake version of this, which is I literally used FFmpeg to abstract frames from a video, and then took those images, put them into React, and then or like put them onto the web, and then using React did that frames per second thing to just switch each of the images. And so like I thought like, okay, cool. Now we can take that idea and now I just need to get the video frames into that sequence buffer that I had already made. But turns out like demuxing and decoding and doing all these things is very hard. Also because like a lot of these APIs are like they're synchronous and not asynchronous. So there's not an idea that like you can just await the next frame. There's this whole idea of like push demuxers and pull demuxers that I still don't really understand. But in that process, I got introduced to a ton of like helpful like libraries that people are using instead of things like FFmpeg or whatever to do kind of really efficient demuxing and decoding. One of those was actually lib avjs, which is a project from Yaweasel, who's a member of our Discord. And essentially this is like you can read it here, but this is like the compilation of libraries that FFmpeg uses under the hood that are re-implemented in JavaScript and WebAssembly, I guess. And so this is really exciting, and I have not like had time to actually dig in and see if this can solve some of the issues that I was experiencing, but it bodes super well. So really excited about that. Again, thank you to Yaweasel for being a cool human that's working on cool stuff in the video and audio space. I really wish this was written in TypeScript, but we can work on that. But yeah, so that's super fun. And if not, like we can try to use something like the FFmpeg WASM implementation to be able to, oh wait, am I even showing my screen? Okay, yeah, thank God. Yeah, okay, so we can use something like the FFmpeg WASM implementation to attempt to solve some of these issues and make a more performant mux and demuxer, because right now what I'm trying to use is the examples that the W3C have given for the using like the web codecs API, and that uses MP4 box.js, which I can show here. P4 hello. Sorry, I have like another computer on my computer right now, so it makes it hard to type. Yeah, so this is a project from GPAC, which makes a very popular, you can read about it. Yeah, here it is. So it's like a suite of tools for doing like conversion and muxing, demuxing, working with video files. Like they make a media player, yeah, and then this thing MP4 box is like I think it's written in C originally, but they re-implemented it in JavaScript. And so that's the thing that I was using because that's what the W3C was using in their examples. But I think that it's not really the thing to use long term, and so like that's one of the things that we have as action items is, and Yaweasel, I'm gonna call you out, as I'd especially love your help with seeing and getting a kind of handheld walkthrough of like how we can use this library and bring it into FrameCrafter. So that's definitely something that I'd love to talk to you about. Cool. The other thing I want to talk about, I am really passionate about testing. This comes from experiences of me being not very passionate about testing, and then that being a source of great frustration in some of my projects. And so I really wanted to have from the get-go a very robust testing system for FrameCrafter that we can all use as a community, because I think it's especially important in open source projects where we could find ourselves with hundreds of contributors, and we want to be able to make sure that people have the freedom to contribute and have their code incorporated, and we have the freedom to be able to pull in their code because we know it works, because we wrote tests. And so, but you can imagine things like traditional unit test frameworks that use something like JS DOM or Happy DOM under the hood that are like kind of DOM mocks. They are not up to date with web codecs. So I wrote this article. That cool. What did I call it? Mock. Whatever. I'll go here. Hold, please. Cool. I wrote this article called Mocking the DOM is a Mistake, and it was basically about this problem I experienced where, yeah, in the latest Chromium browsers, we have access to web codecs and web GPU, but JS DOM and Happy DOM are not going to support those things. And my friend Matt Brophy, who's one of the Remix maintainers, like replied and said this like kind of spicy take about how mocking the DOM was always a mistake for things like this. I have a similar article about how you can get mocked by your mocks in testing, and this is definitely an example of that. And so I began to wonder, like, okay, if we're not going to be able to run in an emulated environment, but we definitely want a testing framework, how can we maybe use something like Cypress or Playwright or Puppeteer that actually like run your code in a real browser environment to be able to test it. And basically then was introduced to a bunch of projects that are like trying to solve this problem, which is really, really valuable and cool. And one of them, the only one that actually worked for me, was this one called Web Test Runner, which I have linked here too. And yeah, basically it runs a headless browser environment and runs your unit tests in that headless browser environment. It's powered by ESBuild, and there's a Vite plugin as well. And so it made it really easy to just like get everything stood up and working. And it actually works. Like I'm on this branch still, and there's something that's a little bit broken with the actual code that I'm writing, not the test runner itself, but you can see like you just write regular, oh, this is not the right one. This guy, you just write regular like Mocha like tests, and it runs them in the browser environment. It's super, super fun. Let's see if it'll actually work. I hate doing live little demos here, but okay, I want to go CD apps demo, and then we'll do a little pnpm. Is it just test? What do I call it? Oh, helps if first you do a little nvm install. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Yay. Okay, well, it all failed, but that's okay because it did run, which is very exciting. And so that's super cool. It's definitely something that has a little bit of quirks that we're going to have to learn, but it's the best thing we've got. So, or it's the best thing I've found that we've got. So yeah, that's definitely something I wanted to highlight and talk about was testing. And yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is just like what's next and kind of our asks. So along with being somebody that is running this project, I also have a full-time job, and I work on a bunch of other stuff too. I'm a man of too many projects probably, but that really is just going to force me to rely on you, the community, more. This is definitely something that I cannot do alone, for a variety of reasons. One of them being time. The other one being that I'm not an expert in this. Like I said, we will all be learning this kind of complicated world of video editing together, and I'm really excited about that. But yeah, it's going to take a team effort. And so as much as I see myself as the person that has kind of spearheaded this project, I know that I'm not the person that can take it all the way to the finish line. I definitely can't do that alone. And so the ways that you can help me most is to reach out if you're interested in contributing. Please use the introductions channel so we can kind of get backgrounds on everybody and kind of highlight each other's strengths and be able to fill in each other's weaknesses. And if you're excited, like I'm excited, and there's definitely a place for you to be able to contribute and work through this thing together. The other things that I would love is I see myself as kind of our community manager in this. Like I see that as my biggest role and the thing that I'm probably best suited to do, along with obviously like contributing and helping actually make this thing work. And so if you have any ideas about how I can be most helpful to you as our community, like if that's setting up things in our Discord or like managing our issue tracking or whatever, like please let me know. Like like I said, I've never managed an open source project before, but I've managed a company, I've managed teams, and I have a lot of opinions on how we can build really great software. And so that's where I think that I can be valuable to all of you. I just need to know what you need from me, and like what your ideas you think could be most helpful. And also just like generally, if you see something that I'm doing that you think is bad, please let me know. Cool. That's like generally all I wanted to talk about. And yes, we hit my half-hour marker of how short I kind of wanted this thing to be. But now I'm going to open it up to kind of like discussion and conversation. So, and we might cut this out of the VOD of the video, but just while we're here and all hanging, I want to like have some space and time to just chat and talk through some of these things. So I'm going to move back to Discord. Um, Cool. And yeah, we've got a thing from Yo Weasel, which is great. Thanks for being here, my friend. So I'm gonna switch back to my workspace view, and so then we can kind of chat. Aman, you can feel free to unmute yourself if you want to chat as well. Yo Weasel, I'd love if you want to come into the presentation chat, and we can like hang out and have a back and forth that way. Also fine to do it in text if you're not comfortable with that. But Yoezel said libav.js has a TypeScript types file. Love it. That's badass. Okay. It can't really be implemented in TypeScript because of how Emscripten works. Yeah, I was looking into this. So like the thing I understand about Emscripten is it basically like takes like C++ files or whatever and like does some fancy conversion into a JavaScript and WebAssembly implementation, which is like really cool. And I want to know more about how that works. But that makes total sense then why it's like not designed to output TypeScript. So as a bit, Yoezel says, as a bit of background with libav.js, Descript, which you linked as a relevant competitor, has partially funded libav.js's development and uses it in their web editor. That's amazing. One, congrats. Two, that's so cool because this is what I'm talking about. Right before I actually started the live stream, I was talking to Aman a little bit about how like we as a community, I really want us to be focused on not only like highlighting our own project, but highlighting other people that are in this space and working on tools for like creative professionals and content creators to be able to like make stuff in the browser like this. And Descript is definitely one of these companies that I think like we should be highlighting. So like if that is a partnership that already exists, we should definitely like work to not only promote them, but also try to like use this thing as well. You'll be I at you. Okay, cool. Hi, whoa, what's up? That's awesome. Okay, hang on. I like for posterity, I'd love to be able to like pipe this into the stream, but I actually don't think I can. Can I add a whatever? I'll do that as the next one, but yeah, especially because if you guys are interested in kind of being a part of these like community updates in an audio visual way, then I'll definitely the next time set it up so that the Discord audio actually pipes into the stream. But if anybody else is listening to the stream and not in the Discord, come join the Discord. Okay. So what's up, Yo Weasel? It's nice to meet you in person-ish. Okay. Got it.
Usable in an asynchronous manner from JavaScript using promises and blah blah blah, and using like the thread support that's in browsers and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So it's in a sense not all that deep of a project, which it shouldn't be
Yep.
because it like use that FFmpeg already does it. I'm not gonna re-implement the wheel. What's the point of that? But I do want to say so. If you look in the examples in the libavjs web codex polyfill repository, that has examples for using libav.js and thus libav for demuxing and or muxing and then like transferring that data over to video codecs.
Cool.
In that case, of course, it's using the polyfill, but it doesn't matter. It's the same API. So those examples exist. The equivalent examples of like the original W3C ones that use MP4 box. Those examples exist for FFmpeg as well.
Okay, cool. Can you point me? I'm like in the samples directory. Can you point me towards which one you think would be most relevant? Are these all just different formats, but they do the same thing in terms of like the VP8 Opus?
So boy howdy, has it been a while since I wrote those samples. Let me go to the samples directory myself and see what's going on. So video decoder VP8 Opus would be the most relevant. The only reason that it's VP8 and Opus is because that's what video codecs supports everywhere. But really, like, that just uses this utils.js, or sorry, util.js, and from there you can see like demuxing packets. So like sample
Cool.
demux, for example, that shows demuxing. That happens to use the no worker flag just because I wanted it to be synchronous so that it would be faster. But obviously for asynchrony, you wouldn't do that. And it's not that complicated. That being said, that does demux the entire file in one go, and there are
Right.
also examples, really tests in the libavjs repository that do partial demuxing, like a little bit at a time.
Okay, cool. And I think like yeah, like I said, I think from the first jump being able to like demux and decode the whole file and then like be able to play back the whole file is totally fine by me. I think like as we go forward through the project, like being able to do it on demand or just in time is like yeah, like an additional level that we can try to get to. But this is awesome. Okay, so and like really the only difference is yeah that uh I've never worked with a VP8 or an Opus codec, so it's like I don't even really know what that means, but it's really just like this decoder is just configured for that codec, but it could be for H.264 or whatever.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. So the codec, um, there are a few, little details for each particular codec, particularly for encoding. They all have slightly different rules. But for the most part, particularly with decoding, it's just, instead of using the string VP8, use the string H.264 or
Yeah,
whatever.
cool.
There's really not that much there. The one sort of so I understand why video codecs doesn't include muxers and demuxers. It would be like hellacious, and also that's something that can easily be done plenty fast in software. But the sort of consequence of that is that there is this sort of gap
Yeah, totally.
between the interface provided by demuxers and the interface provided by web codecs.
Yep.
And in particular, like, demuxing and decoding a file just using libav is like beautiful because it just transfers through all the data. You don't even need to know what codec you're doing. It just like falls right through. And there's a lot more sort of plugging things into other things for web codecs, but that's sort of how the API had to work as a
Yeah.
practical matter.
Yeah.
I'll also
And
mention that encoding video without hardware acceleration is a joke. Obviously, you don't want to do that. But
totally.
decoding video, even purely in software, with most video codecs, even up to like 1080p, you can easily get like 4x real time at least in purely software with libavjs, which is to say
Really?
with libav, really. So decoding is actually not as bad as you might think it is. And also, audio is free. Audio, you can do all the audio you want to, all the whatever format you want. That's like nothing. So like Descript in their own, and I can't tell you many details because obviously I'm under an
Yeah, yeah,
NDA
totally,
heavy,
totally.
but one thing I certainly can tell you is that they do use software decoding using some of FFmpeg's codecs for things that aren't supported by web codecs.
Cool.
So it's at least not like completely crazy.
Cool. That's awesome. And like I think that's something that I've like slowly learned as I've been doing research is like really the encoding part is what's is sped up significantly when we're thinking about using the web codecs API, right? Like but if there's places like packages and libraries that are easier to use for doing the other parts, like it's not going to have that much of a hit on performance of the actual end application. And so it sounds like you're kind of confirming that.
Yeah, and particularly audio.
Mm-hmm.
I so like I so my own the reason I wrote libavjs, the sort of history of that is that I have a podcast recording platform that is open source.
Let's plug it.
It is ecaster.com, ecastr.com on WeCaster. And it, for its own encoding and decoding, originally, well, I wrote it well before WebCodecs existed, but as soon as WebCodecs existed, I was like, great, let's use Opus from that. And after a little bit of sort of hackery with that, I came to the conclusion this isn't faster and is much trickier because now I have to do it in two different ways. So instead, let's not do that. So for audio, it just doesn't matter. But yeah, video encoding particularly, but even video decoding, like you can get it fast enough, but obviously you would want it faster.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so if anybody's watching this stream, go check out eCaster. I have the link up on the screen share right now. But this is cool. And so like, yeah, so you already kind of went down this path a little then of like, hey, I want to solve this problem. I feel like there's a way to do this stuff in the browser. This also reminds me a lot of like, just as I'm perusing it, what's it called? Riverside? Is that like something?
Yes,
similar?
yeah. So, the background to why, oh God, how much time you got?
It's all right. That's what this is for. This is like our community time, the back half of this. So like, yeah, we've still got like 20 minutes that I've allotted to doing this type of chatting. So I think it's great to get each other's backgrounds and like understand why everybody's interested in this. So yeah, go forth and conquer.
So the background to why I wrote on WeCaster. On WeCaster is a podcast recording platform. I don't have a podcast. I do. My channel is about obscure video games, so I'm sort of interested in uncovering strange, obscure games. I recently finished a game called Dark Eyes Battlegate, which is a Japan-only WonderSwan color spin-off of an MMORPG that was also never popular. And as far as I can tell, no one, Japanese or not, has ever beaten this game until me. Anyway, but I will play that with friends, particularly if I can find people who like know the language it's in. And so that was part of it. The other part of it is, so the way I originally did that and got in friends and recorded them was, well, years ago on Mumble, and then everybody jumped ship to Discord.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a bot for Discord to record multi-track audio.
Cool.
And so that bot is Craig. It still runs, but it's not maintained by me anymore. I've transferred it to other people.
Cool.
And Craig was an instant hit. Craig was outlandishly popular and still is. And I sort of didn't get it because it's recording Discord audio. So it's recording audio like after it's been chewed up by web chat.
Yeah, totally.
Which is like the worst way to do this. And so I reached out to people and said, like, why? What are you doing? And I found that a lot of them were recording podcasts, and the reason they were recording podcasts was that they had been on, so I'm not going to name the name because I don't want to defame them in a recording of myself, but platforms like the one you mentioned 5 minutes ago. and found that they're bad. They are unreliable, and in particular, they don't do synchronization well because, to be frank, the authors don't get it. They don't know how to do synchronization correctly,
Interesting.
and that was like a problem I had to figure out very early in Craig. And so I built on WeCaster with like, okay, I'm going to have to, these podcasters should not have to be recording in Craig. I can
Totally.
do this better. I know I can do this better because I already did. They're using Craig for some reason.
Totally. Totally.
And so on WeCaster is the web
The
version of that
successor.
where it actually records the audio before internet transmission, so it's much higher quality.
Very cool. So it is kind of
Yeah.
like Riverside, but also it's kind of like Ping then, where it's like you can kind of bring somebody um, into the chat a little bit. Have you heard of
Yeah,
Ping.gg?
so it is far more like Riverside than it is like
Okay.
anything else really. And I have never used Riverside or any of the dozen other competitors because it feels kind of dishonest. I might like black box learn things that I'm not supposed to. They are my competitors after all. But like most users are people who have jumped ship from other platforms, so they're obviously doing something wrong.
Very cool. Very cool. And this is like a completely open source application.
Yes.
That's
Every
really
every
awesome.
everything I've made is total. Like on WeCaster, it is a paid service
Yep.
because I need to like run the servers and such. But if you want to clone it yourself and run your own copy, then you don't need to pay me a dime. It's open source.
Cool. I think that we should use this for this kind of like community update thing. And like I also have um another project that I'm working on that is a podcast that I'm gonna reach out to you about using this because I think like I was gonna use Riverside, but if this like can provide the same just kind of like direct recording, I'd love to be able to support you. So that's really cool. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that kind of like epic tale. I think that uh, somebody who is T dot 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 long time listener, first time caller. Ecaster is sweet. Concept is huge and would be cool to do the same thing for video as well. Epic. Well, so yeah, Weasel, does it work for video as well, or is it just audio?
It does support video. It's much harder. That's a
Cool.
that's a much bigger problem. Lots of people do use it for video, so it obviously works well enough. But I certainly, my number one thing on the list would be audio. It does audio right, and then yeah, it also supports video, but it is like it's a recording platform. It's not, there's no editing to it, and that's
Yep.
why like when you initially started looking at libavjs web codex polyfill, and then it's like, oh, you're making a video editor for the web. Well, I would like to just take that, plug it into OnWeCaster, and say, okay, here's how you can edit your podcast.
Totally. Okay. That's awesome. And like that also, I love that there is a synergy between this project and yours because you are much more knowledgeable already of the space having gone through it. And so having someone like you with that uh kind of level of experience but also like passion and incentive is super helpful. I like thank you so much for being here. Thanks for reaching out to me after I spammed your YouTube comments, being like, "Hey, I want to talk to you." Yeah, that's just awesome. Cool. Um, sorry, T dot 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 that I muted you while you were in the presentation thing. There was just like an echo happening. I wasn't trying to reject you from being in the call. Like, if you want to come back and say hi, that's totally fine. But now I want to introduce Aman. Aman, if you want to unmute yourself and just like say hi. I know we talked before this call like started, but I want everybody else to be able to meet you.
Yeah, hey, yeah, Weasel, if I'm pronouncing that correct. But yeah, awesome stuff, man. No, I am very much interested in the video space. Was before Drew's tweet, I was kind of hacking on a side project where I was experimenting with the canvas, web canvas, and normal video players to just see what can I do with it. Like just was playing around with trimming videos and then providing more context to those videos. So yeah, as soon as I saw Drew's tweet, it was, yeah, was very much excited. Good to have you here.
Oh, it was Keith. This is my thank you, Aman. That's awesome. And like Aman is being a little bit uh like humble. Uh the project that as I understand it you were working on, Aman, was like basically taking Excalidraw, which is this tool that was actually made by Christopher Shadow, which is the guy that is like an advisor and mentor on this project, and turning Excalidraw basically into, this is Excalidraw, turning it into like a put your video in here, trim the clip, and then provide more context with Excalidraw onto the video, which I like, drawing onto the video, which I think is like super cool. But yeah, so the person that joined the presentation call was Keith. Keith is like my friend and business partner from like Lumastic. I have roped him in to to helping with this project. So cool. Good to have you here, Keith. Thanks for being on the call. Thought it was a separate thread, like a group call in Teams. Got you. Cool. Well, is there anything else that you guys want to ask or talk about, or like questions you have about kind of roadmap or what their kind of next steps are or whatever, like anything that I can clarify? Or yeah, if not, we can gain time back. Aman, I know it might be late for you and it's still kind of early for me. Yeah, he's also anything, Bueller? I'm just gonna sit in silence until one of you says something.
Yeah, so how do you want to proceed this? Like, do you have uh, the feature set for first iteration, or like how should we go about this?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So like I mentioned, we have a kind of a tentative roadmap of stuff. The place that I think we might want to start with is maybe just like creating out some like issues with ideas. Like one of them definitely being, now I think the biggest next step in terms of this project is being able to implement that playback thing that I was talking about and have been working on with libavjs. I think like that just being able to see that proof of concept will be super important. And then we kind of see where we get to from there. Like my goal is in the next couple of weeks to be able to have another kind of bigger demo tweet that like we can show, hey, here was the kind of like proof of concept that was all just like images being able to be flicked back and forth. Now here's like, I want to import this video, and then I'm playing back that actual video. No reason to have like a strict like UI or timeline. Like if you see the actual UI on framecrafter.dev, it's like horrible. Like, and it's just because like it's the play and pause mechanism that is the only thing that I'm really working on. It's fun that this still works. Like as I've been hacking on things, I've been worried that it's broken, but yeah, like basically doing that, except that those are real video frames from a real video file, I think is super important. And so does that make sense before I continue on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I think like the next step would probably be, as a proof of concept for playback, being able to get audio synced with that video. So it being able to play back, because like to have a really good NLE, like you need those things to be so tight. Like editing a video is more like it's like so tightly ingrained with being able to clip to a beat, or like a very specific point in when somebody's talking and switching and like all that stuff. So
Or you've got a 3D rendered weasel face and you want to align that with the audio, so you need to
yes, exactly.
see that the lip movements are actually aligned with the audio.
Yeah, I need to show people your videos, yeah, Weasel, because
Especially
like which one is one where you actually show your
I mean, all of them as of the last 5 years.
okay, here it is. Yeah, so like I don't know how you're doing this effect, whether this is like
Dark magic.
What is it?
I just said dark magic,
Oh.
but it's just existing software. It's a tool called VC Face, and then I threw a bunch of money at somebody to make a 3D image for a 3D model for me.
Very cool. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And so like this is the type of stuff though that I was talking about at the beginning, where like this should be a thing that is built into an editor. Like this is something that you can do like on the fly with the Memoji system on the iPhone, and like we definitely have the technology to be able to re-implement that as like a like there was this project that Adobe did back when I was working in animation and stuff that was like I think it was called Adobe Animate or something like that. And it was very similar. It was like I could record a video and then I could like attach an Illustrator project that was a character, a 2D character, and then the character would be auto rigged and then mimic my video movement. And it's like, okay, like that stuff like has like a proof of concept ish, but it's like it should be an effect layer that I can like throw on, right? Like and so like this is the type of stuff that, yeah, exactly what you're saying is like we need the capability to have a really, really tight integration between video and audio syncing. And so I don't know what challenges that's going to pose, but it probably will. And so like us being prepared for that inevitability is probably good. But yeah, at first being able to just have the import media, playing it back, and being able to say, rah, 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 this project is like moving forward. Because yeah, so I got married last month, which is why everything has been dark, which I'm sure you guys saw in the general chat. And so like, but I really want to get back into it, to be able to like, show people kind of the evolution of this project, get some more GitHub stars, get some more contributors, because this is going to be like a long road. But like we can definitely make it happen. We just need people, and we need to get people excited about the thing. And so the more progress we can show, the more that will happen. Yeah. Cool. But if you guys don't have anything else, or like you do, like yeah, we can pop off. But yeah, if you guys as like kind of next steps, I'll like throw something in the general channel about like what kind of this plan is. And then if you haven't already and you'd like to pull down the repo and peruse the like absolute probably horrendous code that I've written, yeah, we can get started on some of this stuff. The moment that someone else contributes to the project instead of just me will be like an infinitely magical day in my life, because that means we're a real open source project. So whichever one of you wants to get there first. Epic. Anything else from you guys? Cool. Well, enjoy your evening, Aman. Enjoy your morning, Weasel. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for being kind of our early adopters. And I'm excited for what we're going to do with this thing. It's going to be a good time. Oh, something in general. First post commit. Not exactly. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, get committed first. Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. That's really funny. Yeah, exactly. So whoever wants to get there first is banging. But cool. I'm gonna go ahead and end the actual stream, and then I'll post to you guys when the next one of these will be. But